India is the new boss of the G20. Indonesia has just handed over the G20 presidency to India for the coming year as the big high-profile Bali summit winded up for the day today. Indonesian President Joko Widodo handed over the G20 presidency to Prime Minister Modi, who said taking over the presidency of the grouping is a matter of pride for every citizen in India. Modi, along with other G20 leaders, visited the planted mangroves of Bali at the Tamam Hutan Raya Gurarai mangrove forest on the sidelines of the G20 Summit. India has joined the Mangrove Alliance for Climate Change, a joint initiative of Indonesia and UAE under the Indonesian G20 presidency. Prime Minister Modi also held talks with the French President Macron, the German Chancellor, the Singaporean Prime Minister, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who he met for the first time yesterday, and heads of other nations on the sidelines of the summit before departing Bali. In 2023, India will host the G20 Summit. As India took over the baton from Indonesia for the G20 presidency, Prime Minister Modi held his first bilateral with UK's new Prime Minister of Indian origin, Rishi Sunak, along the summit sidelines. This marks the first official meeting between the two ever since Sunak's rise to become the United Kingdom's first Prime Minister of Indian origin. The meeting between the two leaders comes amidst Sunak snubbing Chinese President Xi Jinping for a scheduled meeting and instead meeting Prime Minister Modi, or at least keeping that particular date. Speaking at the summit, Sunak not only hailed India's G20 presidency, but also vowed to commit the long-pending free trade agreement between the two nations. Right after this crucial meeting, Prime Minister Sunak has given a go-ahead for 3,000 visas for young Indian professionals from India to work in the UK each year. The British government said India is the first visa national country to benefit from such a scheme, highlighting the strength of the UK-India migration and mobility partnership agreed upon just last year.
But what I'd also say is I think there's excitement about India taking the baton. I think Prime Minister Modi made an excellent speech at the close of the summit, and there's a lot of positivity about about all the positive things that have come out of this summit being carried on into India's presidency, and people are looking forward to supporting India in that, and we certainly will play our part in the United Kingdom to make sure that we do that. With other leaders here about deepening our trade partnerships, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region, with Australia, with Japan and with Canada, the CPTPP arrangement. I've spoken to all those leaders about our plans to join that free trade area, which are exciting, and I'll be doing that after I leave here as well as the trade deal with India, which we remain committed to, but we need to make sure we get these things right.
I want to go across to India today's Gaurav Sawant, who's been tracking all that's been happening in Bali. Gaurav, Rishi Sunak, cancelling a scheduled meet apparently with President Xi Jinping, keeping with his schedule to meet with Prime Minister Modi. Should we be reading anything into that?
So, we're still to hear officially from either the British government or the Chinese government. All that the Chinese government said so far was they had nothing to say on this. But Shiv, what are facts as we know them? Facts as we know them indicate that Rishi Sunak and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a meeting, but Rishi Sunak's meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping was cancelled, and the Chinese had no idea about it, or they had nothing to offer on it. That's very clear. And if we were to go back a little in the days of Rishi Sunak's campaign to be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, where of course he was trying to get the Tory vote, he made it very clear that he would take a hard line on China, as most democracies across the world seem to be doing post-2019, given China's expansionist attitude. We've seen this in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. Taiwan has seen it, America has seen it, and while efforts are on to dial down tension, perhaps there is a message, a signal that democracies are sending out to China.